allowed suffering, God has allowed turmoil and war on the earth to do three things: to purge, to purify, and to refine. And he gives them a warning. People will not understand the prophecy until the prophecy unravels or is fulfilled. You cannot specifically locate the time of the second coming. The second thing is you have to always be diligent, and don't ever relax and sit down and say, well, it's not yet, or it's already happened, or whatever. But you have to be ready always, and that's the key. If you're not ready, you may be one of those who are purged away. The next point I want to make in prophecy is that there are some things that are going to happen. Jesus comes out of the temple. He said, "Do you not see all these things? Truly I say to you, not one stone will be left on another, which will not be torn down." Now that took place in his first advent, his first coming, as the temple is destroyed. As he's sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples come to him privately, saying, "Tell us when these things will happen, and what it will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age." And that's what we're always asking. What is the sign? What is the sign of your coming and the end of the age? And says, "Do not be misled, for many will come to you and mislead many, and you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you're not frightened by those things. They must take place." So that's not the sign. Governments and nations and kingdoms and wars and rumors of wars is not the sign of the end. For nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. And these have to take place. Why? As Gabriel said, to refine, to purify, and to purge. God is going to refine his church. Then you will be delivered to tribulation, and they will kill you, and you will be hated. And at that time many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. And many false prophets will rise and mislead many. Because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end, he will be saved. So what he's saying is, look, during the time of the kingdom, the growth of the kingdom, the last 2,000 years, these things are going to take place. Now, we've seen in the 20th century that persecution has increased manyfold, manyfold. And I know people don't see that a lot of times because they live in the West, but if you look at the world stage, it has increased amazingly a lot. And nations rise against nations, and there will be a lot of that going on, and they will deliver you to persecution. One of the things that I hear is that before the coming of the Lord, persecution will get bad and the church will be removed to save it from the persecution. And that's never made sense to me. That's one of the reasons I quit studying prophecy, a long time ago, is because a lot of that doesn't make sense. Everyone's going through persecution in the world except the West. Now the West's getting a little taste of it. Especially this last year, the persecution of the church has increased in the Western countries. And that means nothing. It doesn't mean anything one way or the other. Okay? You'll be hated by all nations because of my name. And at that time, many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. As we're getting closer to the end, I expect that to increase, and people will fall away, and then the knowledge of just what's going on in the world will increase greatly. And I'm seeing a lot of people fall away from the Lord. At that time, many will fall away. Many false prophets will arise and mislead many. One of the things that they mislead people is to look to the world. And I see the popularity of preaching a selfish gospel, or the gospel of greed. And I work with refugees, and I work with refugee churches, and I'm finding that they love that gospel, the gospel of greed or the gospel of selfishness. And so many of them are coming from persecuted nations, and they're coming here, and they turn on the television and they watch the gospel of greed on television, and they really get into it because they've been really poor. But that's just misleading them. That's a false prophet. It's misleading them away from, if you're falling in love with the world, John says you cannot love the world and God. So that's just misleading. It said, the one who endures to the end, he will be saved. This gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end shall come. That theme of the kingdom of God going to all nations goes clear back to Abraham, and I think it even goes clear back to Eve. But Israel has to be the conduit through which God builds the kingdom of God for the entire nation. You know, the first thing is that the increase in tribulation will come. It will come. And the reason is to refine the church. The reason we're seeing it difficult to be a Christian is because it separates those people who are serious about the kingdom of God and those people who are looking like for the gospel of greed or selfishness. But at the other sign, the next sign that we see is the gospel must be preached to all the nations. Now I want to say something about this because it's in Daniel 7, it's also in Romans 11. Paul talks about the vine grafted back into the branch. And Israel was cut off because of disobedience and no faith, and the Christian church was grafted into the vine. How much more will God graft the true branches back into the branch, or the true vines? Now this gospel must be preached in the whole world.